Welcome back to the Just Men podcast. I am your host, Byron Rose Kelly, and I'm here with the lovely, very Jeremy.
That's me. I'm very Jeremy. And welcome
You
back,
are
Byron.
very Jeremy. Thank you, my good man. It's a pleasure to be back because today we have another very exciting episode, I believe.
Yeah.
All of our episodes are exciting, but this one in particular I feel is really relevant to the modern age of male positive masculinity, and that is fatherhood and mentorships. Now, yeah, a bit of an exciting topic, I hope.
Yeah. I think for anybody who is anybody in their life, you would have some kind of masculine figure or role model. Typically, it's our father when we're born, but we know for a fact that not everyone has their father present in their life. So we're going to be talking a bit about, the role of a father or even a mentor in your life and why that's important to have one and what actually makes for a good mentor as we grow older, how you yourself become, a mentor figure, and how we can actually redefine what makes a good mentor in today's age, today's society, where it can get pretty confusing to say, what is a good representation of masculinity? What's a healthy role model for me? So that's what we're jumping into.
Yep. And on the topic of mentors, we do have our lovely little Patreon set up, and we do want to create a community of like-minded men who, are just looking for some of that brotherhood, friendship, a safe place to perhaps, grow and learn from each other. And off the back of that, it's all in the anonymity of the internet, so it's a nice safe space for us guys.
Yeah.
But we'd love if you guys want to check it out. The Patreon's there for your perusal, and it's really just a bit of support. Like, we're not making a bucket ton of money off it, and in fact, I don't think this will ever be about money. But it'd be great to see you guys along and have you be part of something bigger.
So if you're curious about checking out what we do and the community that we're building of just guys supporting each other really in a very healthy, masculine way, consider checking out our Patreon. We'll put in the link in the description below, but otherwise you can find it on Patreon at the Just Men podcast, and further details will be there on our website.
Beautiful.
Now, jumping straight in, Byron, fatherhood, mentorship. Let's kind of start from our own experiences.
Oh, yes.
In your let's go with you first, because everyone has eyes on the man with the muscles, the man with the mind, the man with the beautiful smile.
Oh, stop it.
What has the role of fatherhood or a good mentor in your life, what does that actually look like in your life so far?
Oh, well, Jeremy, this is, it's not until I actually started thinking about this question that I realized how complex perhaps my own situation has been in comparison to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So very briefly, I grew up not knowing exactly who my father was. My mum, rest her soul, God bless her, she was a lovely woman, but she really did enjoy the company of a few different men at different times during my upbringing. And as a result, I was exposed to perhaps a few different fatherly figures, some of them positive, some of them not so positive. And ultimately, when I finally did find out who my father was, I love him to bits and he drives me nuts at times. But it wasn't until later in my formative teen years that he actually was there. So it was kind of a bit of, at times I didn't actually have it. There were times where I did have it, and there were times where I wish I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So, there's been good and bad throughout. But honestly, I think the important part of, having the different figures that were there, I really took away, the qualities that I liked or didn't like.
Yeah.
And then that helped shaped my values as an adult, particularly around like how men treat women, how they treat children, how they conduct themselves, and then, the kind of guy that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
That it's been an interesting journey, but I wouldn't trade it because I do like who I am now.
I love who you are now, Byron. So
thank you.
I'm glad you've been through the journey that you've had and how difficult it might have been. But we'll get into why having a mentor is so important and why it shapes a lot of your personality, especially growing up very soon. I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. So
please,
if anyone doesn't know, I grew up in a pretty nuclear family, I suppose. I've got a mum and a dad still together. I've got a brother and a sister. I'm the middle child. And it was about as normal as you can really think of any situation to be. But it's like you said, growing up, dad was there. He went to sports games, encouraged things here, discouraged things there. Obviously, passed on his values onto us as kids.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, especially now as an adult living away from my parents, that I can recognize that my parents did the best that they thought they knew how to do.
Yeah.
And it's only after I've left too, it's like, wow, I see how much of my father I adopted. But it's only after I'd started working on myself did I realize, ooh, I've picked up these traits and I really don't like that. Or I've picked up these traits which I'm grateful for, but I've also picked up these habits which, I don't even think my father realizes they're not great. So it's now as an an adult in my own right, it's very interesting trying to navigate those conversations with my parents because, they've been set in their ways for 40, 50 years. It's very hard to bring up a discussion of like, what you've been doing isn't exactly healthy or what should be considered normal. And you would consider changing that. But I've always had discussions with them where it's been, Tiger can't change his stripes or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I hate it. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, it's a learning process in which I had to do some self-reflection, kind of realize what I liked or didn't like about myself, where it came from, and how through our younger years, our fathers or our male role models really shaped us.
Yeah.
So,
and then carrying on from that too, I think into adulthood, when you can start making decisions for yourself, how you gravitate towards new mentors and perhaps ones that are different from what you grew up with, or maybe they are similar, they just provide a different perspective or in a different field. So that's where, like, ultimately we've had two very different experiences as we've just realized. Like, it was normal. Mine was very abnormal. But at the same time, we're both able to become hopefully well-adjusted people because we've sought out people that we can learn from. And that's where, if you don't have a dad, that is that space for a mentor. So,
just following straight off after that, Byron, what makes a good mentor to you? Because, by default, our father in our life is typically the first male role model or mentor that we have. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best ones, as you and I have both learnt or realized. And we're grateful that they were there because they did the best they could, given the circumstances of our lives, however complicated they might be. But what qualities genuinely make for a good father or mentor?
It's funny because I think it comes down to what that person can teach us. And oftentimes, especially with mentors, it's in a field that we have some sort of interest or relation in. But then beyond the actual knowledge side of things, it's how they conduct themselves and the way that they go through their thought processes and the way that they go about taking in information from other people. So it is, like we've talked about male ego in the past. And in fact, mentors don't even always have to be male. Like I've had some very good female mentors that embody a lot of masculine traits. And I've learned a lot from. But probably the key amongst all of them was how aware they are of themselves and potentially of the position that I'm in. And then how they can connect and relate to me based on what I need at the time. So it's like a lived experience thing, but also an emotional intelligence thing.
I mean, I think a lot of that does come back to, again, self-reflection, realizing that, I do need a bit of help in this space, or, hey, this person is in a position where I feel like I want to be in a similar position to where they are. And it's funny, I think that's one of the first things I picked up or realized from a mentor that I kind of stumbled across on YouTube, right? Because a lot of my development, like you already know, was had a breakup, started Googling, how to get your girlfriend back, how to get over your girlfriend. And that did eventually transition into the self-help space, which was all about apart from just doing that, how to just become a better version of yourself, how to really work on yourself to the degree that you don't care if they come back or not, your ex-partner, right? And one of the big things I did learn, and I kind of took this quote away, was someone said, don't listen to someone who's not where you want to be. And I think that was a good starting point for me because I think there's a lot of truth in that. But at the same time, there's another part where you don't have to embody everything that somebody is. You can
Correct.
say, look at somebody that you think, wow, they've got, they're in this position, but I don't really like how they treat women. Or they're in this position, but I don't really like the way that they are very self-critical about themselves or something.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of it for mentors was, well, for me anyway, is number one, looking at, are they in a position where you want to be, or are they someone that you actually admire for some reason? But number two, just kind of taking the qualities of them that you appreciate and try to adopt that. And you don't have to take everything about it, but you can pick and choose. That's the greatest thing.
Yeah, and that point's really important because it is a big trap, I think, to see somebody be, the person up in lights and on that pedestal and go, I have to be exactly like that.
Yeah.
And I think for a little period of time, we had men in particular, because they were searching for something to really strive towards, see someone like Andrew Tate, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this hyper masculine man. He's talking all this crap and how good he is at business and, how many women he can get with and all this BS.
Yeah.
Right. And when you really look at it, you're like, dude, like, do you have to treat people so shittily and think about, like, I get that you're trying to be masculine. Maybe there's some masculinity in there, but gosh, feels like you've taken it to an extreme.
Yeah.
And as a result, these people who are on the internet see this and see what, different sections of his life are like, I'm going to be like him.
Yeah.
And so they embodied everything that he
about
was
it.
about. And you're like, oh, nah, that's just dangerous stuff.
It is dangerous. And I think it all comes back to, because at the same time, I can have like a general overall opinion about a certain person. But I also believe that, even if I have a genuinely negative view of somebody, I also believe that you can find traits about them which you could learn from. And I think that can be said for
100%.
just about anybody that I meet or talk to.
Yeah, agreed.
It can be something as simple as, look, I like how kind they are. I like how they treat people. I like the way that they project their voice. I like the way that they're, I don't know. I like the way that they carry themselves, the way they speak to women. I like the way that they treat older people. Like, it doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are, or what background you come from. I think there's always something that you can appreciate about another human being.
Yeah.
So,
mentor selection is very important.
very important. How about you? Like you said, growing up as well, because you have an absent father figure. Where did you feel like you? Because we've obviously established that it's a pretty important thing to have someone to guide us through this world. That's confusing. There's lots of different opinions. There's no one right way to do it. There's multiple paths to becoming a decent human being and living a great life. But for yourself, where do you feel it would be a good place to start if you don't have any mentors? You have no idea what makes a good role model. What do you think is a good place to start? Because people obviously turn to the internet, and obviously we run into people like Andrew Tate, which is first and foremost because he's so prolific. But if that doesn't resonate with you, what other suggestions would you have?
I mean, probably the most important one was accessibility for me. Like, it was who was immediately around that I could kind of gravitate towards. Because while like the internet wasn't as prevalent when I was a kid, right? Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
I got to see dial-up being introduced.
Me too. It's
like,
great.
Wow. But but so things like teachers, things like my soccer coach, like he was an incredible human.
Yeah.
One of my mum's boyfriends he was more like an older brother, but that older brother scenario kind of worked in the sense that he showed me different things around, like, how to tinker with cars and, how to kick a soccer ball and, like do some of this. Actually, he introduced me to video games too. So it's like, okay, like I got a little bit of, I wouldn't say I learned anything particularly like human forming around, what he showed me. But at the same time, it was nice to have, because otherwise it was just mum.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was the oldest of the siblings. So it was my role to step up and, mum was away. It was cook the meals, make sure the kids went to bed, keep stuff tidy. And to be fair, I was a shit of a kid as well.
Yeah.
Like I rebelled a little bit against the fact that I was like, I don't want to do all this crap all the time.
I
want to have fun.
You shouldn't have to at that point in your life, right?
But you do what you got to for your siblings.
Of course.
It was accessibility at the time. And then I was lucky in that I got to see what negativity looked like as well, I'll say. So very early on, in the same way that a good mentor can be very shaping, I'm going to say like an anti-mentor, the antithesis of what we're talking about, also helped shape the way that I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not want to be like that, and I do not want to associate with people like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I moved towards anyone that was the polar opposite. And I think nowadays it may be a little bit easier with the internet, but again, I think there's like a false equivalency there as well. Just because someone's on the internet and they're well known for it doesn't necessarily make them the right mentor for you.
That's a really good point to bring up. I really like what you brought up about accessibility, because I think there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of good people in this world, just as much as there's a lot of crappy people in this world. But I think that's a really good place to start. It could be a soccer coach, could be a teacher, could be, I don't know if you're religious,
someone in the workplace,
could be in your
religious
workplace,
groups. Religious groups, actually a good one. Yeah.
But you can find great mentors around you all over the place. And again, you might think, oh, but they're not millionaires. They're not driving Lamborghinis and getting all the girls. So why would I pick them as a mentor? Right. And it comes back to what we were mentioning earlier. You don't have to, if you lived your life 100% by everything that this one person said, you might turn out like them. But again, you could take qualities of them that you do admire and really adopt that for yourself. And it could be something as simple as how kind they are when they treat people, how respectful they are when they talk to someone older, how well that they treat the people around them and are very encouraging and supportive. And those are wonderful traits. But if you say, I want to learn business, I want to learn to make millions, well, look for a business mentor, right? Go look for...
my soccer coach wasn't the guy to learn business about, right?
There you go, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like he was definitely the person that you would learn how to be compassionate.
Well, he taught me about like tenacity and teamwork and like all the stuff that as a team player, how to interact, and then he helped shape me as a leader of a team.
Yeah.
And like, so that was my first foray into like working with others in a constructive way. And then when stuff goes bad, how do you deal with it? And man, like as an adult, I look back, I'm like, damn, I got lucky. Like that coach could have yelled at us, that he could have been like,
100%.
You guys suck. Yeah. And instead he was the polar opposite of that. And I do think that was a big reason why when I've led teams and managed branches and things like that, those traits have come along with me.
I'm glad. I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah. But it's funny because if we think about it too, anyone listening right now could probably think to a point in time in school or something. You might have had a really kind teacher who you felt gratitude towards because they might have just treated you nicely, or maybe they just treated you like a normal human being rather than something othering. Or you might have had, again, like a soccer coach who you probably had several soccer coaches and one in particular was your favorite. Why was that?
Yeah.
And in a way, you remember these things, and hopefully those experiences shape you. It's like, I want to be like that person for this particular thing. But in a similar way, like you said, you wouldn't go to your soccer coach for business. No. In a way, like Jeremy, you talk to Jeremy, and he could teach you some great social skills and confidence things as a coach. But I'd probably talk to Byron if it was to do anything with fitness or health, because that's just people are
we have
good.
Strengths and
we have strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with having multiple mentors or multiple role models that you look up to for various aspects of your life. And I think it's like you said before, the trap that a lot of us get caught up in is we see this one person who's like the pinnacle of masculinity or manhood, and we just want to ignore all the other traits that we're not comfortable with or we see as bad, because if he was like that in all those places, then maybe I can get there too. You know what? You can also get to a really successful place in your life with business, with relationships, with your career by doing your own thing. Like 100%. You don't have to follow someone's footsteps 100% to, get to where they are. You can build something just as good or even better by following your own path with your own values. So
definitely could not agree more.
Now, No, I was just going to say, I was going to switch it up to another part of our discussion, but did you have something else you wanted to add before we kind of move on to that?
No. I was going to kind of carry on from the idea that, like, when you take these things away from people, it's because I think with mentorship or fatherhood in particular, especially when you're younger, and then in your early sort of adult life, you're still trying to figure out who you are and how
Absolutely.
you deal with things. And we've talked about the male ego and stuff like that before. So when you do find these people that you can actually learn from, it is, I've found, to be one of the best ways to have some sort of emotional development in my life. Like, it's a leaps and bounds type deal, not just like an incremental approach. It's like, yeah, I got breakthrough. Oh wow, life different.
Yeah.
Byron, understand more. So, but did you find that, like, in terms of the mentors that you've had over your life,
Yeah.
like, what has that done for you as a human and like as a male?
A really good question. Having the mentors are instrumental in your development as both a human being, but also as a man, because it's going to shape the way that you view not only yourself, but the way that you view men in the world or even women in the world through a lens, right? Because some people will say men need to always be strong, tough, never cry, always be a rock, never show emotion, because that's the successful man, right?
That's correct.
And if
100%.
everyone around you is saying that, of course that's going to be your reality. But if you were raised in a way in which you could have healthy conversations with your father or with your mentors, rather than saying like, don't cry, I don't want to see you crying today, that's what weak people do.
Yeah.
But you had a father figure who says like, oh, you're crying, you're upset. What's going on, man? Just come and sit down with me. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
Your world would shift completely.
Yep.
Right. So to answer your question, how does that shape us as growing up as kids or as young men? Your mentors are going to 100% shape the way that you see the world. And if you had a healthy way of viewing things and people taught you very strong values, very, very healthy, respectful values, then it's very likely you'll also be a strong, healthy, respectful person as well. But, if you grew up in a place where there was an absence of those mentorships, people told you all the time, oh, you're shit, oh, you should grow up, you should be more tough. Obviously, you're going to be very bitter. Obviously, you're going to be thinking you're not good
Guarded.
enough. So
Just don't trust
you
anybody.
don't,
at that
trust,
point.
and that we'll get to that as another thing altogether because it's very difficult. I think because obviously as a young kid, we just want to believe in someone. We want to think,
Yeah.
oh yeah, these people are here to help me. Oh, my father is here to be reliable.
Yeah.
This person that I've looked up to and respected so much has got my back, no matter what. And I think it's a very unfortunate thing when that's the complete opposite of their experience growing up. You might have a father who's just not there, someone who makes a promise to you and just doesn't show up. They got someone who promises to support you, but you lose a soccer game or you do poorly in an exam or something, and they give you nothing but shit for it afterwards. Right? It's going to shatter that trust that you have in people altogether. So,
Yeah.
has that been? I don't know. Have you had that kind of unfortunate experience in your life? Because I've definitely met kids that I grew up with who were angry and bitter, and it's only after I got to learn a bit more about them later that that kind of explains a little bit or a lot about why they were like that in school. So
Yeah, it's like, cause I guess I was exposed to all sorts of different male role models early. Like, for instance, my stepdad was pretty good. He taught me a bit, but then he was absent for parts of my growing up.
yeah,
And then, like I said, one of mum's boyfriends wasn't too bad. I got my dad, who was there for me at different points, like very sporadically, and then later,
yeah,
he was there all the time. But again, I kind of done a lot of my development by that point. And then, the negative side of stuff was, I mean, when you hear that you're a shit person, that you need to grow up and, be tough, and not even be tough, just that if you're not tough, you're gonna cop it again.
yeah,
And it's like that stuff really does, it really shapes your brain. And so you start to become guarded and you don't show any emotions and you push things down. You don't let people get close, and you just you wear a mask all the time.
yeah,
Because if you don't wear the mask, there are consequences for
yeah,
it. Right. And you learn to cover up your mistakes. You don't confide in anybody that you're having issues because you don't have anyone to turn to. And there is a real world consequence, whether it's physical or mental or emotional, to not being what is expected of you.
Yeah.
And that, I'm sure plenty of people have had experiences like that. And it doesn't even require like it to be it comes in all varying degrees as well. So,
Yeah.
but that sort of stuff takes a long time to unpack,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And when you finally realize that, that's not the way things have to be, it's tricky. It is really tricky.
It is.
Because you have years and years of shit to unpack, and it's hard. It is hard, but it's doable. It is very doable.
It's doable. It comes back to what we were mentioning before, that, there's this particular view of men in the world that I think as a whole society will create, for better or for worse. I think there's good sides and bad sides to it. I don't think it's completely, this is the worst possible thing that we could have, right? But, there's what traditional qualities of a masculine man. Go back to episode 1. It's all about, being emotionally resilient. It's all about being confident. It's all about being strong. And there's a lot of, healthy masculine qualities which are very good just as an individual. Those are great things to have. But when it comes to other things that people associate with stuff like that too, you must be super healthy. You must be able to, raise your voice in certain circumstances all the time. You must not be afraid to get angry and aggressive when the moments call for it. Obviously these views can be skewed depending on the situation. So that's why it gets, I think, very confusing and difficult, because I don't think there's, like we mentioned before, there's not one right way to handle any given situation or any one right way to live your life that's perfect, because it really depends on your circumstances, the people around you, and I think that's the most complicated part, is there is no one right answer. You can do your best to be raised with all the best values, but even then, some of those values are essential just for where you live in the world. So
and you don't, like you said, you don't get a choice necessarily in those early years about what you might be exposed to. And I cross my fingers and toes that every male and female child that's born today gets a fantastic life, right? Like, I genuinely wouldn't wish the negative experiences that are possible on anyone. But you can't control, no one can control anything that is going to happen to them. So it's like, okay, once you realize that either you've been fortunate or unfortunate or somewhere in between, it's then, all right, what do I do from here? And I do think this is the trickiest part, but also the part where those, fatherhood roles and those mentorship roles are so critical.
So critical.
Like, it is so much, there's so much more importance on it once you are able to make your own decisions. Because like, I would not be the person I am today if I had not interacted with the people who then showed me stuff. Sorry.
It's funny. I'm sorry, Byron. I hope it's not too difficult to talk about this stuff, but
it's all right. It's all good.
Oh, I love you, man. I'm really proud of you, dude. I don't really know, because if anyone hasn't had any background, Byron and I have only met in the last 6 months to a year, and we've kind of really started to get close. So we know each other to a degree, but even then, I don't know, all of his history and his past. But
that's okay.
Yeah, there's some things that we can talk about on a podcast, some things that we probably should unpack over drinks sometime and play Mario Kart. But
we'll have a few brewskis, and it'll be a funnier sort of conversation. But,
you actually brought up a really interesting thing about, having those people at those crucial points in time is monumental to, changing or becoming a better version of yourself. And you actually reminded me of something I was wanting to mention earlier, but I thought I'm going to mention that a bit later because it's a better part. And this is perfect. Is you're right. Not all of us are born or raised in the most fortunate circumstances. And a lot of that is out of our power. We can't control what nationality we are, where we're born,
100%.
How rich we are, if our parents are going to be good or bad, if we're going to be surrounded by supportive people or not. But the one thing that we can control is what we choose to do with that. Right? You can choose. The biggest trap you to get trapped into is to think, is to become a victim and have that mentality in your head, have the victim mentality.
Worst thing you can do.
Oh, the worst thing you can do is have that victim mentality in which you you blame the world. You blame things that you simply could not control. You blame, it's my father's fault. He wasn't there, or it's my older brother's fault because he was teased me.
He was
or
a bully.
it's this bully's fault in high school, and because of that, I now feel like I'm not good enough, and I'm not good with girls. And I never will be.
Yeah.
The second that you just accept the facts, like, hey, I was raised in in circumstances. A lot of those things I had no power over. But the fact is, you did your best, and you're here today. And
Yeah, you're still here.
You're still here
That's
today.
Yeah, so it's from here. What do you do with it, right? And that's your power as anybody, whether it's human or male or female or otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. Your power is what choices you make from here and who you surround yourself with, and what's the person that you're trying to be. So you can choose that.
You can choose. You have the power to choose. And I think this is the part in which I think a lot of people will either sink or swim pretty hard, because you can go down the roll up. And just for the discussion point more than anything else, I think it's very easy to get very angry at the world. It's very easy to get angry at the world, and where you will start to take on role models who embody that anger and channel that, and just
I was going to say, do you think, like, especially as a man, the whole notion of anger and using that anger seems to be something that is talked about as a very masculine trait. Like, men are full of testosterone.
Absolutely.
It makes us more aggressive. It makes us more driven towards achieving outcomes and things like that. And so you see this cycle of, well, if you're angry, good, be angry. And then as a result of your anger, you're going to do this. But being angry, or that, like, there's a big difference, right? Embodying the anger and that hatred and using it as fuel is still detrimental to yourself in the long term. I think, it's corrosive to your soul, right? You can be aggressive towards your goals. You can, channel some of that assertiveness, and you can channel, those positive masculine things, but it's not where you are then taking on this emotional state that can be detrimental to not only yourself but other people. That's a one thing I'll always like when you're looking for a mentor. If someone's just like full hatred, anger, use it, like grind and hate everything except for what you're doing, like that, I would hope is a red flag to you.
If that hasn't registered to you just yet, please, start use this
Reach
as a very
out.
use this as a very start to say, look, anger it can be useful in circumstances, in
100%
doses,
it can.
but if it's something that you're using to fuel everything that you are, to create the empire that you want to build or whatever it is, it's like Byron said, it's not healthy. It is corrosive. I think corrosive is a really good word. It will eat away at you in a lot of different aspects of your life. So it's like you said, if you have a mentor who's very embodies just anger and aggression as fuel, quite literally look at it like burning forests to achieve your
You're
goals.
literally just setting fire to your soul.
Setting fire to your soul.
And eventually it burns out, and all that's left is ash and dust.
And, we can use analogy as much as you want as well, but I'll actually bring this into what I do for coaching social skills. One of the biggest things that I teach is, what are the reasons that you actually want to get better at social skills, at socializing, and confidence? And it always, always, always needs to be for yourself. That's the only way that you'll actually improve. If you're wanting to get better at socializing because you want to get back at somebody, or you want to prove somebody wrong, or you want to show Susie, who turned you down, that, yeah, I'm a cool guy, and you want to get back at somebody.
I'm alpha male.
Yeah, I'm alpha male, Susie. You don't understand. You don't know what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
You are not going to improve. Like, it's plain and simple. You can use this fuel as much as you want, but if your motivation is hatred, if your motivation is you want to get back at somebody, you're not going to improve. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to learn what needs to be learnt through a mindset that you need to adopt. Because, Byron, you probably already know this. I probably don't even need to tell you this, but
Tell me anyway.
The people that I've met, or the people that I enjoy socializing with the most, the people that I enjoy being around, are the people who uplift me, they inspire me, they encourage me, they can have fun, they
Yes.
are enjoyable to hang around. And not one of those people are angry people. Or not one of those people are vengeful saying, I need to get better because I need to show Susie, I need to show her that I'm the alpha. Because, when you go out to practice those social skills, if you're just angry all the time, no one wants to have anything to do with you. And,
It's a very lonely world.
it's very lonely. And that is all anger is going to serve in the long run. You're just going to isolate yourself, not only from, your family and your friends, but anyone that you could potentially meet. People are going to pick up on it and they're going to want nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Oh, man. So that's where I guess selecting good mentors actually comes to its fore, right? Because you learn from them, right? You learn from them and you learn what you like and what you don't like.
Learn what you like. And again, I think, like you said, the first place to start is just quite literally around you in your immediate vicinity, people that you're already associating with. And I think if you actively think about it, like take 5 minutes right now, pause this podcast and just think, who around me do I actually admire and why do I admire them? What qualities do they embody? And it's not, hey, you need to be that person. Take everything that they are.
I got a question for you then on that sense. Like, so say you do that and go through that exercise. Is there a need to formalize a mentorship, or can it be sort of like an unwritten, unspoken, like, because we sometimes pay to have mentors, right?
Absolutely.
Like you and I have both paid for mentors in the past. In fact, people actually come to us for mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our respective fields. So there's the paid mentor side of things, and then then there are those people that are surrounded by us who give themselves willingly and are open to us.
Yeah.
But do you think there's any difference, or do you think both are as valuable as the other?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that one. Obviously, for us, we both work in the coaching section. We're both mentors in our own rights. We'll get into the challenges of, being, as you grow older, you're going to become a mentor, whether you like it or not, to the younger generation, right? We'll get into that in just a second. But that's a very good question. And I think there is a difference. There is a difference. And I'd like to liken it to kind of like the relationship between you and me, right? I think the people that are complete strangers, we have no idea about them, but they want results. You and I are providing a service in that, hey, if you pay us X, Y, Z, we're going to help you get to ABC transformation.
Yeah.
Right. And that's coming out of I don't know you, but I'm going to take you on as a client, and they make good clients and I will be a good coach, quite simply because you've paid me to do this. I'm going to make sure you get there, and they're going to listen to me because they're paying me money. Right.
Yeah.
But say it was old mate Steve-O on the corner who, I've known since I was a kid, and he's let's say, do you want older brother figure or like older father figure? What are you going here?
Let's go older father figure.
Old father figure. So say old mate Steve on the corner. This is young Jeremy at 13 years old, 14 years old, and old Steve-O's 40 something.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that Steve-O treats his neighbors, and he's always polite. He's always very cheery, and it's great. I think when you're asking about formalizing it, I think it could be one of those things. Quite simply, you spend enough time with a person that you're around. You could at some stage be, hey, look, Steve-O, I really like the way that you do X, Y, Z, the way that you treat people and like that. You might ask questions, just very innocent ones, and it could be one of those things which he starts talking, so he wants to teach someone. It can be either way. I think if it's you've known them for a long time, it can be a very informal thing, and that is very useful because there's no contracts, there's no one owes anyone anything. But you could also get to the point in time in which say, hey, Steve, look, I've got a bit of a problem, man. Do you reckon I could ask you about this? Or I really like the way that you do this. Do you reckon I could ever come to you if I have any troubles with, these kinds of things?
That's the trick right there, right? Like even in the informal sense is, hey, like if we've got a relationship and because I think I've met quite a few, especially older gentlemen in the different types of jobs that I've had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy, he's not anyone super famous or, hasn't done anything particular, but he's lived, right? He's lived for maybe 60 years. He's maybe in his 60s and he's got real world experience with situations that I can't even fathom yet. So I've sometimes come to them and said, hey, is it okay if I come to you, or hey, Jono, like I had this situation. What are your thoughts? You've seen this a few times. Like, what's it look like?
Yeah.
And then they're just happy to exchange. But it's the understanding that this might be a person who is able to offer me guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great question. Do you kind of feel in a similar way that, between the paid and or formal kind of agreements and informal, like they're both very useful in their own rights?
Incredibly. Yeah, I think with the paid one, you can sort out the type of skills that you really want to hone in on. Like ultimately, that's why you're picking those mentors, right? It's like that person has the knowledge and expertise that I want.
Yeah.
I am going to ask that they mentor me in that capacity. And then with the informal mentors, they still have the ability to teach you a host of valuable stuff.
Yeah.
But it might not be as specialized as what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So both are really good.
Both are really good in their own rights. And, when it does come to a situation which you can't really solve and maybe Steve doesn't have that knowledge, that's typically when, we do seek out experts. That's why we go to a lawyer for law advice.
Yes.
That's why we go to a doctor for medical advice, right?
What do you mean? You don't Google your symptoms?
Google your symptoms,
find out
Google my problems. And that's why we go to fitness experts for fitness advice. That's why we go to social skills coaches for social skills advice, right?
Exactly.
But actually, just on that note, because I remember when you and I were just, we'd known each other for a while, but before we kind of knew each other or hung out at all, you sent me a message being like, hey, dude, want to kind of get some advice on your experience in, the online space. Do you reckon I could pay you for your time? I said, no, get fucked. Put your wallet away. Right. And to me, that was something of like, look, we kind of know each other to a degree, right? We've kind of got to the chance to talk a little bit. But the fact that I've got a friend or someone I don't really know that well just yet is willing to, pay for a service or willing to kind of show, hey, I appreciate what you do. I know we don't really know each other that well just yet. So it feels bad of me to ask in an informal way for some guidance. That to me shows your character more than anything else. It's like, hey, I know that your time is valuable, but I appreciate that. But if anything, that's what made me appreciate you even more, rather than because it's like going up to your favorite celebrity. And you're like, oh my God, Timothy Chalamet, can you tell me how to become an actor? Like, holy shit, you're so cool. Right? They're gonna be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why would I speak to you? I don't know you. You're trying to just get something from me.
It's all trying to extract everything.
Trying to extract. So I think when it comes that, I just want to take. That's kind of what puts people off. But obviously in a mentorship position, it ideally, like we mentioned, it should be someone that you already have that connection with. But if you don't have that connection with them just yet, I think one of two ways about it. Either, just kind of start to get to know them. Not because you want anything from them, just because you genuinely think they're a cool person. But number two, if you just want results, you just want to go from A to B, the quickest time possible, absolutely look for someone who you can ask for their services, and you might have to pay them a little bit, but that's probably the quickest way to get there if you wanted to.
Yeah, I just realized the whole idea of mentorship is there is some sort of value exchange there. And so for one person, it's the ability to pass on the knowledge to somebody that is willing to learn and listen and engage. And then on the other side, it's the person who's willing to receive and interact with that person in a way. And so unpaid, it's like this, because immediately I think of some of these gentlemen that I've learnt from, and they were just happy to talk and share. Right. And that they got their value from me being curious about their lives and like engaging with them a little bit. But then when I put it into the paid space, it's like, well, I give them money, so they're getting value back from me. Right. I get their knowledge and they get my money. So yeah, there is always a level of value exchange with mentorships, I think. It's just what kind of value is being distributed. But yeah, I'd never considered that perhaps I was offering those people who are teaching me things something in return.
Yeah.
Right? Just company or otherwise.
Kind of, that's actually a natural kind of thought, just kind of thinking about it, because obviously as we get older, we're going to live life a bit more. We're going to become more well-traveled, more worldly knowledgeable.
I hope so.
More I don't know, skilled in whatever we choose to be doing.
More wise.
More wise. And there's 100% going to be younger guys or just younger people wanting to get some advice from us.
Yep.
And we're going to become mentors, whether we like it or not.
I
Everybody
think
in
it's
their
already
life.
happened.
Yeah.
I think we're already doing that, aren't
We're
we?
already doing that already, right? But everybody in their life, whether you are going to become a father, whether you're going to become a parent, whether you're going to just grow older and talk to and interact with people who are younger than you, like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You are going to become a mentor in some way, shape, or form. So, what do you think, Byron, is the best way to navigate that? Because obviously, there's going to be pressure involved with it. Someone is going to be looking up to you for advice. You know, say we do become Steve-O in the corner or Jono, right? And we got some young kid who just kind of looks up to us. What do you think is something that we should be looking out for, or something that we should be keeping in check within ourselves to make sure that we're, you know, we are going to be the best role model or mentor for this person going forward?
Yeah, it's a good question, because you do start to feel a certain responsibility when, you know, people are asking you
Yep.
for, you know, knowledge or advice, or
Yep.
and that it is daunting at times where you're like, what if I shape this whole person's life? But I think as a mentor, you have to quickly realize that even if you provide them, you know, insight into things,
Yep.
it's up to them to A, take it, and B, what they do with it.
Yep.
And ultimately, you can't control, even if you said it perfectly, if they misconstrued what you said and did something completely the opposite, it's still not your fault
Yes.
as such, right? Like, but at the same time, I don't think that's ever going to be an issue if you're just genuine in your desire to assist.
Yeah.
Right? If you're doing it for any reason, like if you're not really clear about your intentions, you know, and I think about it in the communities that we run in. I actually realize I'm probably already mentoring a few people in a informal capacity than what I realized.
Yep.
But the exchange isn't like, oh, I'm going to do this so that they worship the ground that I walk on and make sure they tell people that how awesome a dude I am. And if I ever need like a little scapegoat or a bodyguard to watch me, I can throw them into the wolves.
They'll be
It's
happy
like,
to take the fall.
yeah, go, my little minion. Good luck. But no, it's like just having if you don't have a genuine willingness to share, whatever it is that you're engaging in with that particular relationship, then, you know, maybe being a mentor is not yet the right thing for you. I think it's okay to be like, hey man, like I'm still trying to figure out my life. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. I don't know if I have a lot of value to offer you at this time. But at the same time, if you're comfortable in that space and you know, you are like you've done some work on yourself and you feel as if you have something to offer, then freely offer it with no expectation in return. And if you do that, you're never going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And no one's ever going to turn around and be like, Byron, that was the worst piece of advice anyone has ever given me. Like, oh, sorry, bro. Good luck with whatever you're doing then. So
Dear. I actually
how I
like that
think
you
about
brought
it.
that point, because just kind of adding on to what you said, for, you know, we are going to become mentors at some point in our life, and we're going to do the best that we can, and it's really up to them to, you know, decide if they want to take it or use it or interpret what we told them and use it incorrectly. It's up to them. But I really like what you said at the end there too, where if we don't actually know if we can offer advice, or if we actually, this is what I wish that my role models would have done, especially my father, if we don't know the answer or it's not our expertise, for us to them just turn around and say, hey, I actually don't think I can help you here because I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Rather than pretending, oh, this is the best thing that I can do and this is the right answer.
I've got
you
all
should
the
listen.
answers.
I've got all the answers.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that ad. I don't know if you saw the ad for Telstra or something. There's some little kid asking their dad. He's like, Dad, why was the Great Wall of China built? And then the dad obviously doesn't know the answer, but it's like, oh, it was to keep out the rabbits, son, to keep out the rabbits.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, quick, I better get the internet quickly so I can. And there was a Telstra ad, like a telecommunications company, saying like, oh, do you guys need the internet? We've got good deals on it. So it was a good ad.
But the funny thing is, the kid goes to school and does his presentation on the Great Wall of
China with the rabbits,
and it's the wrong information. Yeah. So, but even though it's really innocuous, that's exactly the real world consequence of not being able to say I
Yeah.
don't have the answer.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that kids go around telling people the Great Wall of China is for rabbits. It's maybe you've affected their life in a way that didn't have to go that
Don't
way.
have to go that path. Absolutely.
It didn't have to.
And
So
a lot
that's the
of, I
responsibility.
think a lot of conflicts where people have an ego problem or they don't want to be wrong comes down to exactly that, by just saying, hey, I don't know the answer, or hey, I don't want to actually give you any advice on this because I'm not an expert. And
Yeah.
put it this way, it's the same as if someone came to you with a medical question and they say, hey, dude, I've got the kind of thing. What advice can you give me?
Amputate.
Obviously,
Chop it off.
you'd be like, dude, I'm not a medical expert.
Oh, damn it.
We can do that in any aspect of our life. And,
Yeah.
and that can be for relationships, for money, for career advice. And, obviously our parents just want the best for us. They just want to guide us as best they can with the knowledge that they have. So again, I'm never angry at my parents that you should go to university, you should get a full-time job, you should, buy a house and do all these things by the time you're 30 kind of thing. Because in their minds, that's what would set you up to be happy and healthy. But, obviously as we grow up as individuals, what we define as happy and healthy for ourselves is different. And that's where clash with parents can kind of happen. But that's kind of another wormhole we can go down another time, I suppose, though.
Yeah. I got a question for you on that. Because so we talked about the fact that it's okay to say that, hey, maybe I don't have all the answers here.
Yeah.
And I have a small hypothesis that perhaps we don't immediately gravitate towards that because we don't want to look lesser in the eyes of someone who is, I guess, asking us for advice or something.
Yeah.
Have you ever had somebody say, oh, sorry, I don't have the answer to that, and then looked at them and gone, oh, well, I guess this person's no good at all? Like, because I want to dispel the notion that that's, you only have to answer because that way you don't lose cred, bro. Yeah.
It's really, that's a fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. See, the thing is, I think about it right now, and I don't believe I've ever thought less of them. I didn't think they were less of a person. I didn't think they were less of a human being. I didn't think they were less of a mentor for not knowing the answer. And the reason I say that is because it could be something like, for example, my Chinese teacher, right, in university. He was like an Australian guy, Caucasian, but he was the most knowledgeable guy I'd ever met, who is like nodding, says like, oh, this Chinese word means this. This is the origin of it. And the character looks like this because of this happened back in, 1600 when they first invented. Like, he was on it. He was on it. And I asked him about one particular character, which is like, oh, why do they say it like this instead of this? Because there's alternative meaning. He sat there and for a moment thought about it. And it's like, you know what? I'll actually have to get back to you on that one because I don't know the answer. And just because he didn't know the answer to something didn't take anything away. And I think that's because, he's already demonstrated that he is, leagues above where I am and where I want to be in terms of learning Chinese. So just because he didn't know the answer to something, I would be, if anything, I respect him more for saying, hey, look, I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
I respected him more.
Yeah. It's there is a level of respect that comes with people admitting that they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes even to a new level again when they go and find out.
Yeah.
And then report back to you. It's like, holy smokes, like this person knows how to get answers too. Like, whoa. All right. Yeah. So,
I mean, for example,
I hope if nothing else,
if I went up to you right now, I was like, oh, Byron, can you tell me, the reason that Mozart wrote his third symphony in the key of G major?
Yes. Totally.
Right?
I would have a clue.
And obviously you don't have a super musical background. And so I don't expect you to know the answer, but if you did, I'd be like, wow, that's insane. But the problem is, I think I've got more mates who pretend like they have the answer to something, and they're completely wrong, and they try to override it with the facts. Like, no, I know it. I'm an expert. It's like, no, we don't need to look that up.
Yeah,
like, bro,
it's kind of scary how common that is. But you know what? As positive, masculine people,
yes,
right? It's okay not to know.
It's okay not to know. It's okay.
It's a highly masculine trait
to be
not to
wrong.
know. Oh my gosh! Yes.
It's okay to be wrong. We don't always have to be correct. Okay.
That's right.
Now, look, just on that, just as it's like, God, our discussions are fantastic. They just fly by. But
It
just
does
on
go
that,
quickly.
Byron,
Yes.
just some reflections on what mentorship is all about in the modern age and what it should look like. So, kind of wrapping up but let's do this in two sections. Both for people who want a mentor and both for people who are mentors.
Yes.
For people who want a mentor, what do you think they should be looking for, first of all? And secondly, for people who are a mentor, what would be the best piece of advice you would have for someone who's a father or a mentor, and they're wanting to be better fathers or mentors? What advice would you give
Yeah.
to each party?
So if you're looking for one, I think about the kind of person that you want to be and what where your interests lie, and then seek out people who know more than you. But beyond that, do yourself a little bit of due diligence around what kind of person you're actually involving yourself with. Because inherently, and I know it's based on everybody's values and we can all have differing opinions on what we think makes a good and not so great person.
Yep.
But if you do a check for yourself and you're satisfied and go to sleep each night with the person that you're learning from, then I think you have found yourself a winner.
Yeah.
Right? Absorb everything you can from them. And keep absorbing until the point where perhaps there is no more value exchange. And then you thank them for their time or become one of their peers, or you continue a relationship in a different capacity and then move on to new mentors that can keep broadening your horizons. So start local. And if the knowledge base is not there that you're seeking for specific things, go searching, ask people that are in that field, find out who's got a good reputation, all that sort of stuff. So that would be my advice for people seeking out mentors at the moment. And then people who are in the mentor space, like, be self-aware, like, be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to, put yourself on, well, not on, but put yourself out to see what you can deliver to the person who's hoping to learn from you. And if you don't know, let them let them know you don't know. And then you keep leveling up. And as you keep leveling up, they keep leveling up. But just be genuine with your interaction. Please, for the love of God, don't try and stitch people up. Don't be one of those sort of humans. And if you are one of those sort of humans, go have a quick look in the mirror and ask what you're really all about and come listen to our other episodes. So
you can learn a thing or two, and we can help you show you the way.
Well, we could. And not to say that we're perfect
No,
at
we're
all.
not. No.
But you know what the great thing is when we challenge each other in a respectful manner and we're open to learning, magic happens.
Yeah.
Magic happens.
That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. That's how we discover things that we probably didn't know before. Because we're going to go back on this in another aspect as well. There's going to be people out there listening in too. It's like, why do I even need a mentor? Right? I'm going to do this by myself. If you want to do that whole crappy alpha male lone wolf crap, you can. You absolutely can climb mountains and unlock new things by yourself. Absolutely, it's possible. However, the climb, my friend, is going to be a lot easier. It's going to be a lot more fun. It's going to be a lot less lonely. And you're going to progress a lot quicker if you do surround yourself with people that you can learn from and also people who you teach. Because, funnily enough, it's even nicer when the student becomes the teacher and they learn things that the teacher didn't know at one stage. There should be nothing but pride in that. Not like, I feel ashamed that my student's overtaken me. It's like, no, you were the stepping stone for this guy that helped him get to where they are now. Like, there should be nothing but pride in that aspect, right?
100%.
So, no, you made some great points about, looking for the right kind of mentor in that capacity. And again, just for being a mentor too, one of the biggest things, like I mentioned before, that I really wish that my father had taught me, and I think it's still something he struggles with to this day, is being okay with being wrong, being okay with not knowing everything, because it really just shows off, your insecurity. It shows off that, maybe you don't have it all together. Maybe there is something missing that you really just can't tell us about. Yeah. So, apart from that, just being a mentor for someone, it's going to happen. Just do your best. Don't feel afraid to admit you're wrong. And if you're out there searching for a mentor, start locally. If you can't find it, keep listening to us.
We'll direct you to some good people.
Yeah, we'll direct you to some good people, depending on what you're after. And don't feel like you just only can have one mentor in your life. You can have mentors or role models in any capacity that you're interested in. If you're a musician, if you're a fitness man, if you want to improve your social skills, there's different mentors you can get for just about anything. So
Sure is.
yeah. But
guys, just go find some mentors.
find some mentors,
Be a mentor
and look, if you want some homework for this episode, go out there and come back for by the next episode. Tell us. You don't have to be like, yep, that's my mentor locked in. Do some, looking around and see, I've started to follow these guys for this discipline, or I've started following this guy for this reason, right? And tell us, why do you actually like them as a mentor? What about them do you admire, right? And the same 100%. Way, tell us what you don't like about them. Even more.
Just no flame, okay?
No flame. We keep it.
We do it
simple.
Respectfully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was a pretty solid episode, Byron. Did you enjoy yourself talking about mentorship and our past?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you got me a little emotional today. I haven't felt that in a little while.
It's
but
not
you know what?
Look, I'm sorry if it's something that was a painful. It's not supposed to be a painful experience. This podcast, Byron.
No, I like it. I think it's, again, these are the sort of conversations that you like. I like to think I can have them, but yet, even though I'd like to think I can have them, I probably still don't have them regularly enough. And it's like, any opportunity, even if it's in front of the millions of the viewers out there, listeners that are on this podcast.
Divided by a million.
But no, it is, if nothing, like I hope it maybe encourages you to be a little bit vulnerable and think about that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
There's no shame in it, and I'm not ashamed. And I'm thankful you're on this journey with me, Jeremy. I really am.
I'm what's the word? I feel blessed that I'm on this journey with you, Byron. It'd be a very different experience with anybody else, and I'm really enjoying it. So, look, if you guys have enjoyed our vibe once again, feel free to check out our Patreon if you want to buy us a coffee. Like, that's all it costs, is just the cost for coffee once a month. Show us your support and show us that you like our vibe, but even more so, we've kind of opened up a community for our listeners. If you wanted to kind of even just talk or just lurk with other...
You want to find some mentors?
Find some mentors.
Swap mentors.
We're all going to be in the same place, just having discussions, and we're actually still building this community up. We haven't really figured out what else we're adding to it just yet, so keep in the loop.
We're vulnerable.
Yeah, we're vulnerable. We're letting you know we don't have all the answers. We're still learning about this. But yeah, feel free to check that out. Again, links in our description of this episode. Otherwise, you can find us on Patreon at the Just Men podcast. But apart from that, that's pretty much it for this week. So thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on this journey with us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys a lot. So wherever you may be, just know that we're super grateful.
I'm grateful for you. Yeah, and that's thanks for listening this week, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Love you.
Much love.
Goodbye.